Hi Matuza, so today we're at the amazing Poly Experience Centre here in the Gherkin in central London. Do you want to tell us a little bit of this place first and how it's come about? And it's not been open for long either, has it?
No, first of all, welcome to the Poly facility here in London. We are the Gherkin, which is like a very prestigious facility. As you can see, we've been open for about 6 months now, and we've started to see a lot of customers come in. That sort of proves our point of how people are going back into offices, right? So the way this has been built is all around the modern office setup. Or you may call it hybrid working, blended working, or whatever. So, if there are people here in the office and then there are the others who want to sort of collaborate from outside, how do you sort of bring them all together? So, all of the equipment that you see here, all of the kit that you see here, it's all built around that. And as an office facility, as if you see now, people also want to sort of have that water cooler moment and want to sort of have that coffee. So it's really nice. We like it because a lot of customers are walking through that door, and we've had a very strong success rate. So when our customers come and see the facility, it almost always convinces them, and sort of we end up making a sale to that customer.
Definitely, and what better location? As you can see here, we're surrounded by the City of London kind of thing, all the offices around here, and we've been on a real journey over the last 18 to 20 months where we've really fundamentally changed the way that we're working. We all went to home, which was a big upset for businesses, but we all kind of did the same thing. We all kind of went from working in the office to all working back home. We're now in this kind of strange phase where some people really want to be in the office, some people just want to come in every now and then, and some people are still very much at home. So this kind of new era of hybrid working, or if Microsoft has started calling it blended working, is very strange. What are you seeing? What are your opinions, and how does Poly fit in with this kind of new world of hybrid working?
I absolutely believe in this because I've gone through this whole phases myself, and we've been sort of on some podcasts right during the lockdown when it was sort of everything was under confinement to now when sort of people have started going out. I think people enjoyed working from home to some extent, where people were more productive, were able to take care of their children, their pets, their family life, and but soon I think that also turned into a kind of solitude, not being able to see people, not getting the same energy. And if I sort of refer back to your motivational maps, there are some people who are actually motivated by friendships at work. They're motivated by ideas generated at work and stuff like that. And I think especially for those kind of job roles and those kind of people who are motivated by these things, it is a big slump if you're just constantly working from home. And rightly, a lot of leaders have put it, saying if you're not going to the office, or if you're completely cut off from the office, you're not going to see all those other benefits that you get from being in the office, and uh, eventually it might hamper your productivity, or it might sort of slow down innovation in an organization. So I strongly believe in hybrid working, where you can get best of both worlds, where I can be at home Monday, Friday maybe, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I could either be at my office, or at a partner's office, or at a customer's office.
Definitely, it's we've reevaluated our priorities across work, across personal life, and kind of people are choosing to rebalance where they want to be and how they want to work. And I think a real big responsibility of employers is looking at their office space and asking the question, why do people want to come in? How do we bring them back in? How do we improve those opportunities for collaboration? And for me, that's where Poly really comes in, having these kind of devices that lead to the experiences that allow people to be able to feel included if they're at home and there's a hybrid meeting. So you've got a variety of different solutions here, haven't you, to help with those challenges?
100%. So look, what a kind of collaboration, right? You've got like the group collaboration, where some people are in the meeting room and some others are outside, like either working from home or a cafe or an airport. How do you bring them all together to collaborate? That's one experience. The other experience is when I look at it from my own self, working from home. So I'm like an individual. Okay, how do I collaborate with the rest of the group? So we've got personal conferencing devices like the USB cameras, the speaker phones, and the like, the P21, which is one of the latest all-in-ones.
Yeah.
And we've got the group conferencing devices, or the things that go into meeting rooms. And if you look at this facility, you've got all of those devices showcased here.
Fantastic. So across this video that we're recording today, all broken down into smaller videos, we're going to do a tour of some of those rooms, those experiences that you've got here. And we've got Vincent and Mark available to talk to us about all those different technologies that are available here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and it's a great thing, right? So we've got Vincent Dahl, who's a solutions architect for Microsoft at Poly. Sort of, he knows everything Microsoft. He knows everything about our devices. He's been in this industry for a long time. Mark Cupid, who's celebrating his 25th anniversary at Poly, believe it or not. So he's here. He's got like a long-term history with Polycom, so he can speak about everything devices, starting from the PictureTel days. And you also have Patrick Fonar, who's the Experience Center Manager. He's going to help you out with the facility and any future bookings and stuff like that. Mohammed is our the manages the front desk on the facility. So you've got all the right people today. And not to forget Zav Keeley, who's a services lead. So he's going to speak about services. So I'm hoping you all will have an excellent day today, and look forward to seeing the video, and I look forward to more customers and partners looking at this video and coming back to us.
Definitely, fantastic. So hopefully the customers that look at this will be thinking about the solutions, how they work for them. We at Computer will be able to show these facilities off in our offices in Computer World, but it's also possible for customers to come down here or experience a virtual tour of these facilities as well, isn't it?
100%. We also do open days. Like once every month, we are organizing a Microsoft Open Day where we are speaking about all of these solutions, and Microsoft are joining these calls as well. So it'll be good for our customers who can't make it personally because of the distance, because of the booking dates. If they can attend our open houses, that'd be fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, let's go and meet some of the guys and go and have a look at some of the experiences that you've got here.
Sure, Barry.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're here in the large meeting room here at the Poly Experience Centre at the Gherkin. I know that's not its official name, but is it? I can't remember what the official name of this building is. Vincent, from a perspective of a large room like this, what kind of thoughts and considerations do customers need to go through when starting to plan and think about changing their meeting room into a Microsoft Teams room like this?
Well, that's a very valid question. It kind of depends on what the room will be used for. So that's the first thing to determine. If you look at this room, and we'll definitely show you some angles later on, but it's very polyvalent, right? You can move the chairs, move the tables, you can make a classroom or no seats at all and just all standing. So you want to have devices, one or more, that are capable of doing multiple things, not just finding the persons in the room and zooming in on them, but even following them if needed. If you use it as a classroom, there's a big whiteboard over there, so you want the camera to be able to track you around and maybe zoom in on what you're drawing or writing on the whiteboard. So there's quite a lot of use cases for this specific room. So if you look at this, we've set up 2 devices in here. Now, of course, we're Poly. We have a bit of a luxury having a lot of devices. So this, for instance, is an MTR on Android. Now this is the Studio X50 bar. It's sort of an all-in-one solution, so it's really easy to deploy, and it's packed with features. So it will filter out noises you don't want in there, somebody eating a bag of crisps. You won't hear the crisps, which is rather important. The camera will track people, will find people as well, but it is limited in space, which is why it's on the long side of this wall, right? It's perfectly capable to look across the room in that direction, but the camera would not be powerful enough to look in length. So if we look in length, which we'll show you later on, we have an MTR on Windows there, which uses the brand new E70 camera. Now that's a dual lens camera. One is looking wide angle to cover the entire room, but the other one is capable of looking up to 9 meters. I should say that in feet, which is like 27 feet something. So it's capable to really covering this entire room and taking all the images. Now, which system we'll use for which purpose might differ a little bit. It kind of depends. If we train people, we'll probably use the E70 looking at the teacher. But if there's meetings, we might even use both of them.
Definitely. So Probably the largest room is one of the most complicated rooms in my mind because of what you've said around if someone's going to give this much space to a meeting room, they're going to want it to be flexible. They're going to want to be able to have it as multiple different purposes. So in here we've got desks that could move around. If you could come in tomorrow and this might be a theatre style seating mini conference space or something like that. So there's even thought gone into kind of microphone layouts in here, isn't there?
Right, and that's, well, you say flexible. And today, if you know Poly a little bit, we have focus rooms, small rooms, medium rooms, large rooms. There will be a fifth range in there, which will be called modular rooms as well. So flexible, modular, sort of the same setup. Mm-hmm. So indeed, for this room, a lot of things are to be considered, which is why you need a good partner to work with. Because for instance, if you move the tables away, there's no room to put mics on, which is why they're up on the ceiling, right? They're just hanging down, you hardly notice them, the little golf balls. But they really pick up sound in the entire room. Just 2 of them are enough for this size of room. And of course those golf balls, they don't connect in USB to an MTR on Windows or something, but if you look at our G7005, which is being certified for Microsoft Teams, they will connect to that device. So we will have a device capable of doing whatever you need in the room, whatever you need the room to do for you, which is, well, quite the starting point actually. What am I gonna use that room for? And then from there on, you'll build with what devices do I need, what screens do they need to be touch, not touch, do I need whiteboards or interactive whiteboards? Hell, do I want to roll a Surface Hub in there? Which is fine as well, right? You have them on wheels now, so and they work together with our MTRs after that. So
definitely. So a little bit about the device behind you here. So we've got a Poly X50. We've got it with 2 large touchscreens here and a TC8 device down there. Do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about how all this would work together in a Microsoft Teams environment?
Yeah, sure. So this is in native Teams mode, of course, which means basically it's running an application developed by Microsoft. It's really built by Microsoft. We just delivered the hardware. Now, the hardware is packed with features. Things like noise blocked for the crisps, right? Acoustic fence. We could set up sort of a virtual line between both tables in this room and say only this table can be heard. But then there's also the camera features like tracking the presenter, like zooming in on a group of people instead of on empty chairs, like really following people around the room. All that is packed in the hardware. And then the Teams application is going to use all that. It's basically going to take those features and use them. Now, why dual screen? Well, and that might be news to a lot of people, but it used to be 1 screen for people, 1 screen for content. But Microsoft is now changing that. It's allowing both screens for people as well. So if you don't have content, you'll see people across the entire span of this. It's also a touch screen. Why? Because the Poly Studio X is an MTR on Android, is capable of using whiteboard. So depending on the setting, you can start it or not through the little TC8, but if anyone else starts it in a call, it will pop up and you'll be able to grab a pen, they're right here, and basically draw on the board, on the same whiteboard as everybody else has access to, which is quite interesting. If you're starting to building stuff, if you're collaborating, you need to be able to work together on the same, well, whiteboard, PowerPoint, whatever you're doing. So that too is part of this device. Now, control can be done through the touchscreen or through a little 8-inch display, which is this one, the TC8.
Yep.
Now it's network connected, so you don't need additional cables, just a network connection will do. And if you'll notice, those tables have network connections at the bottom. So depending on the setup, we could put that on the table or on the other table or wherever we want, because there's no cable hassle, which makes it really, really easy to change the setup again and that device. So yeah, and it runs the native Teams experience. I think they've done a really great job on that, developing it this year, because right now it looks exactly like the MTR on Windows. So from a user perspective, you walk into the room, you find a little 8-inch thingy, and you hit the join button. That's it.
Definitely.
You don't need training, you don't need to know how it works, you just need to, I almost broke it there.
I think that flexibility, that simplicity is really important. People don't want to be walking into a meeting room and thinking, how do I use all this kit that's around me? Just a couple of questions on the X50. At what point would someone choose an Android-based and the X50 model over maybe an X30? Is it an amount of people in the room? Is it the size of person in the room? Is it the persona of the room? When would you decide on the X50?
Well, that's a really, really tough question, because if you look at Poly, we're quite unique in the market. We have devices running Android and Windows for every meeting room size. Now, nobody else has that. A lot of brands will tell you, well, for a large room, you need to take this, or you need to. We can really guide the customer into what they need. Now, for me, the optimal setup is sort of a mixture of devices. And I developed this theory where I look at what I call the meeting room profile. So there's two very different types of meeting rooms in the world. In every company nowadays. There's the ones with tables and chairs and a screen at the front, which I like to call a communication room. It's really the old school meeting room. And then there's this new type of meeting room, and we have several of those, which we'll show you, but with little sofas and really whiteboard, a lot of room to walk around. The more, well, I call those collaboration rooms. They're really not built to sit around the table. There's not even a table there. They're really built to sit around the project, virtually or wherever it may be. Now, two different type of rooms, right? Communication, collaboration, and depending on, let me ask you this, if you were to invite a customer, which room would you use?
Most of the time you're going to be sat around a more formal meeting, I would imagine.
Exactly, so think of it from a technical perspective, because inviting a customer doesn't mean they're coming to the office anymore. They might actually dial into the meeting.
Yeah.
So you want that meeting room to do several things, one of them being open to other ecosystems as well. Now, we all love Teams. I mean, I'm wearing a Microsoft shirt, but if a customer sends an invite, it might as well be a Zoom or a WebEx or who knows what else. So you want the room to be able to answer to those.
Yeah.
You want the same join button regardless of where the invite comes from.
And where we are today, the Microsoft technology allows us to do that with the Microsoft Windows-based Teams rooms, and not the Android as we are today.
Well, there is a feature called Guest Join, which is on the MTR for Windows, as you say, and it allows today to do Zoom and WebEx. It will in the future, Microsoft recently announced it at Ignite, it will be able to do Blue Jeans as well and GoToMeeting. So that's actually a very big range of enterprise-grade platforms. I would dare to say probably around 95% of all calls worldwide are done on those four, well, with Teams 5 platforms. But Guest Join is coming to MTR on Android, has been announced on MTR on Android, except there's no date yet. So we might need to wait. Now, if you follow my profiling thing, you need Guest Join in the communication room. You don't really need it as much in a collaboration room because there's no customers being invited to calls there. Right? Those are internal calls, and you would guess people in your company would use the same ecosystem.
Or if you're bringing a customer into that environment, they're probably coming in for that immersive experience in your collaboration space, using the boards that are on the screen.
Exactly, and you would have sent the invite anyway,
Indeed,
so it would be on Teams again. So looking at those collaboration rooms, those are easier to equip with Android devices. Also, every MTR on Android has a camera that will track you around the room, which is quite important in a room where there's a sofa and a lot of room to walk around and whiteboards and stuff. So they all have that. They're very easy to deploy. You can put the little touch control wherever you want. All you need is Ethernet. So they're really built for that modularity, much more than the MTR on Windows.
Definitely.
Which is more built for, well, let's call it the old school meeting room.
Definitely.
Now again, it can do everything you need, right? It can even do whiteboarding nowadays if you have a touch screen. But in that type of room, that will be less frequent.
Definitely. Lots of flexibility then, lots of choice inside of here. Let's take a look at the other setup that you've got in this large room, and then we can do a tour of the other rooms and see how they compare.
Sure.
So we're over on the other wall inside this room now, and this is one of the units I'm really quite excited about. It's one of the newer devices to come out from Poly. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's special about this device and what can it do?
There's a ton of things special about this device. The first thing is the form factor, right? It's like, if I put my hand next to it, you can see how small it is. It's the tiniest camera we ever made, but it's probably the heaviest one, for one. And it's also really packed with capabilities. So for instance, it has dual lenses. Now, dual lenses might seem like an odd thing to have on a camera, but one of them is looking in a real wide angle. I think it's 121 degrees, whereas the other one is looking in a narrow angle, but down the room. And it will transition. That's another amazing feature about it. It has this tremendous intelligence. We call it Polydirector AI. And it basically transitions depending on what is required. So it can block her in, block her out, it can cut from one image to the other, put two people next to each other. It's really amazing what it can do.
So this is the E70, so this would work with a Windows-based Microsoft Teams room.
It will today, but it's also, well, it will also work on a G7500, which is actually this device.
Okay.
And that too is an Android model. So remember I said we have both Windows and Android for small, medium, large rooms,
yep.
even focus rooms. So this one would be the large room in Android mode.
Okay.
But it would also work on a Windows MTR, which is of course really important because that's where the new features will be introduced, right? And one of those new features that's up and coming is called People View. It's the ability for the camera to basically zoom in on multiple people at the same time, pick them out and send them as an individual frame. Now mind you, Teams doesn't support multiple streams yet, so that's something for like H1 next year. But it is coming and the camera is ready to do it. So that's quite an interesting feature to have. It really promotes that equality feeling. You work at home, but you're not looking at a table with lots of people around it. You're looking at a set of people zoomed in and visible on your camera.
This is when Microsoft are demonstrating this. We're seeing screens get bigger. We're seeing that the screens are at eye level, cameras at eye level. It's trying to make people feel more inclusive in that meeting.
You'd think so, but it's not just that. That is actually a second new thing coming called front row.
Right.
So I'll come back to that. But People View is the ability for the camera to zoom in on multiple people and send them as an individual stream. Now you're absolutely right. Microsoft sees the future of video conferencing quite different than other brands. And they have this idea of a new type of meeting room, which they call front row. And front row is sort of a half a moon, table behind which 6, 8, 10 people are seated. A very big screen, content is central, and at the bottom you would see the other people in the call.
Yeah. All
individually focused. Now imagine sitting in a room like that and having one of the rooms you're talking to without a People View camera.
Yeah.
You would be looking at people the size of your thumb. You would not be able to see any body language. So the E70 in those other rooms is quite important to have.
Yep.
It will be able to zoom in and it will enhance the front row experience, which I believe is really the idea behind People View. Much more than equality, it's the ability to deliver that extremely good experience in the front row.
Definitely.
Now if you think of it, front row looks a lot like an immersive room. An immersive room is something we've been selling for ages, so we have loads of experience in that. I think we have one here as well, that we can show. The furniture is always the same and big screens at the front, and the quality of the video is very, very important with those.
Fantastic. So this has been the large room here. Let's move on and have a look at the medium room to see what that looks like.
Yeah, sure.
So Vincent, we're in a small collaboration space now, and when we get onto technology in the moment, it would be the same for a small meeting room or even a small to medium-sized meeting room. But before we talk about the technology, talk to us a little bit about this room. When I kind of walked in, there was this sense of calm. It's a very quiet space in here. What preparation has gone into a room like this?
It is, isn't it? It's sort of a cocoon, and that's because of the fabric that's being used, not just on the floor, which obviously has carpet, but also the walls have this, I think it's made out of PET bottle, whatever, and the chairs as well, and it really absorbs sound, so it gives you that cocoon-like feeling, that noise-cancelling feeling you would have with a headset. That's what you get in this room. So,
definitely.
And that's important. Quite often people forget this, but that's why we have partners, of course, that when you build a room for video, you need acoustics and you need lighting to be okay as well. And better than okay. I've seen customers put on a video system at one side of the room and the other side is brightly solar catching windows. Well, that will not work. I mean, no matter how good the camera is, you will look like, well, you won't be able to see people's face anymore because they will look like a shadow, a big shadow.
Definitely.
So you really got to consider those things as well.
Definitely. So really important to think about the room, not just the technology and how you're laying it out, where the position of the equipment is. But this room is set up as a small collaboration space. So how would you use this room? What kind of activities would you do in here?
Well, this is sort of the informal type of room, right?
Yeah.
The collaboration room, I called it earlier, and that's exactly what it is. So this would be a room that you can use on yourself, or with up to 3 people. As you can see, there's 3 chairs. But it would be a room for sort of a team meeting, an internal call, not really a formal call with a customer, because these seats really don't, and you need a table to do a formal call. But it is a room where you have, well, as you can see, the room to stand up as well. There's a whiteboard. The camera is actually a studio USB, which, as you mentioned, is used in both the small and the medium kits we have. And that one will have presenter view on. So if you stand up and go to the whiteboard, start drawing, it will actually zoom in on that presenter. So this room really is built to do more than just have a meeting, but really start building something with a whiteboard, start talking about presentation, have this little informal call, like you're sitting face to face.
So we've got a small or medium-sized Windows-based Microsoft Team room in here. So we've got the compute just there. Normally that would be mounted behind the screen for demonstration experiences in the Poly Experience Centre. It's on full display. We've got the GC8, I think, down on the floor there to allow us to control the meetings, join the meeting and things like that. And the piece you've already pointed out there, the studio USB.
Yeah, exactly. Now there's a few things to mention here. For instance, the GC8 uses a cable that goes straight from there to the box. So it's not like the TC8 that connects over Ethernet. This one really has a point-to-point cable, which allows us to use up more bandwidth in that cable, which is why we have an HDMI input on that console as well. We have an audio port on that console should you need it. But apart from that, it looks really similar, especially for the user. So you push the same buttons, it's the same interface, it's really very, very similar. And you're right, this is, of course, a Windows model. So we do have that Lenovo compute part, which, by the way, now we do not, well, we used to only have Lenovo, and now the customer can choose between Lenovo and Dell. So that's a big step ahead as well. And then the camera, of course, being the Studio USB. Now this is the small/medium room kit. This room could have been equipped with an MTR on Android as well. As I said earlier, it kind of depends on the room profile. But it also depends on what the end customer wants. I've seen customers saying, we don't want additional Windows devices to manage. Fine, go for Android. I've seen other customers say the exact opposite, saying, no, we don't want Android, we want Windows everywhere. Well, that's fine as well. We have them. We have that range.
So a few things that I really like about this, that as you mentioned, we've got the HDMI port on the GC8 there. So if someone just rocks up into your meeting room, wants to plug in a cable to their laptop and put something on the screen, they're not joining a Teams meeting, or maybe they are, that's easily accessible from there, isn't it, that HDMI ingest?
It is. Now you're talking to a Teams guy, so even though HDMI is accessible, I'm more of, well, you have proximity, John, you have cast, you have all these wireless methods of securely sending your content to the screen, so why on earth would you use the cable? But then again, it's a bit old school, and a lot of customers,
some C-level execs, they just want to
Yeah.
walk in, where's the cable so I can plug in?
Yeah, exactly. So it is still possible, providing, of course, you have a PC with an HDMI port.
It's becoming more and more difficult these days.
Or the little adapter, which you lose everywhere.
Exactly.
I think I spent quite a few of those. Anyway, it does support both the wireless and the wired capability of sharing content. So it's really a very vast system, and it will, of course, give that additional quality. Now, some customers might say, well, a little room like this, why don't you just put in the Studio USB, provide a USB cable, and people just can drop their laptop and connect it. And it is possible, but then the room would only be usable if you brought a laptop or a MacBook. And you would not be able to invite the room, to reserve the room for your purpose, which are two things that sometimes become really, really important. Now, I'm not saying there's no room for bring your own device rooms. There definitely is. But if you want the room to be, well, if you want your people to be able to reserve the room, to send out an invite, to be sure that the room is available, you need the room to have its own identity, hence an MTR.
Definitely. And just to remind everyone, the Studio USB there, so we've got the tracking, presenter tracking or audience tracking, is it? And noise block, noise fence in there as well, isn't it?
Well, both actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, we've got these typical features. Let's start with the audio ones. Noise block. Noise block AI actually will take away anything that doesn't belong in the call. So typing on a keyboard, eating a bag of crisps, but also a dog barking or even somebody clapping or high heels on the floor out there, that will be filtered out.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is called acoustic fence. Now acoustic fence kind of, I should use a whiteboard actually, but kind of creates two lines in a certain angle. You've got it from wide to narrow, and only sound created within those lines will be transmitted.
Okay.
So if we had acoustic fence, the line would go here, people would be able to understand me, and they might even see you, but they will not hear you because you're standing outside.
Makes sense.
And it goes that far. I had a customer during the first COVID lockdown that actually used the studio USB in his living room, and he taped 2 blue lines on the floor. He told his kids, you can do whatever you want outside of the blue lines, but inside you gotta be quiet. And it just worked. So that's a really, really powerful feature. Think of a device like this in a more open office space.
Yeah.
You could actually have a video call and somebody on the phone right next to it would not be heard by your far end, which really is important. And then there's video, as you mentioned. Now the Studio USB is sort of the sandbox where we created a lot of video features, going from presenter tracking all the way to well, speaker framing, which will zoom in on the speaker, group framing, which will make sure everybody's visible in the room, but also conversation mode, which is one I really, really love. So right now the both of us are talking, it would zoom out to the both of us. But what if I'm talking to somebody opposite in the room? Well, the system would zoom in on each of those and put them, 2 of them in one frame.
Okay.
Which is quite interesting if you think of it, zooming in on multiple people, adding them to the same window.
Yep.
That's sort of what Microsoft is doing with people.
Indeed, yeah.
We've been doing that for years, so yeah, we're well ahead of that. So very interesting device, very, very good device for, well, many purposes. By the way, it's really popular in education as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this has been the small to medium meeting room or a small collaboration space. So let's go and check out some of the rooms.
Yeah, definitely.
So Vincent, we're outside of 2 focus rooms here. They're also set up quite differently. So would you be able to tell us a little bit around the focus room, the use cases and the technology that's been selected for these?
Sure, sure. Well, now at Poly we've had focus rooms for like ages, little rooms in which you go sit in to have a quick call. And even though you could do that with just a laptop, that would kind of ruin the experience for the far end, having lousy audio and video from your laptop experience. And now these rooms are equipped, these are actually focus rooms with their own identity, with an active system. So it's not just a bring your own device room. This can be reserved. By the way, this one is running Zoom and that one's running Teams. So again, depending on the customer needs, we can eventually, well, use the right device for the right room. Now, if you look at those, on the right there's a little desk, on the left there's none, but both of them are pretty similar in setup, saying, hey, you've got like room for 2 people, and even though 2 might be a lot in the room, 1 would be just fine. And you would sit comfortably. Again, you would have that little camera. This is a Studio X30 twice, which would automatically frame you. So regardless of where you sit, even if you're standing, you would be visible like torso and head the way it should. And then of course there's this big screen that enables you to actually see the far end as well. Now what I love about these, if you have a Teams call or whatever call on your PC, you're easily distracted, right? You have pop-ups, other messages flowing in, emails and stuff. Here, it's just you and the call. So if you're in a one-on-one call especially, focus room really helps you to do exactly that, focus. Basically, well, so 2 nice examples. The one on the right is probably better because the lighting is really controlled in there. On the left, you still have blinds because the sun might hit. But well, I would love the left one more.
The view of London from that is amazing, but maybe we'll distract you a little bit.
It probably would. The 32nd floor. It's quite an impressive view, but anyway, focus rooms more and more popular, especially after COVID. It used to be huddle rooms, right? But you can't huddle with multiple people in there anymore. It's not.
That's going to kind of go up a level to the small room we saw before, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
If you're going to have that
So we've seen that trend where small rooms become huddle rooms,
Yeah.
and large rooms become, well, in quantity of people, small rooms,
Yeah.
and well, very large rooms become basically medium rooms. So it really stepped down a little bit, but hopefully that will change again.
Definitely. So these are both Android-based rooms, but you could do a similar thing with, is it the Poly P15 and the Microsoft Teams room equipment?
Exactly. So if you look at it, the P15 is basically, it's a camera like the Studio USB, but instead of looking very widely from 121 degrees, it only has a 60-degree angle. So it's really built to look at the persons that are sitting right in front of the screen, which is exactly what you would do in this room.
Fantastic.
So indeed, with the P15, you could make these Windows rooms, or you could even, well, build them in a way that it's a bring your own device room.
Definitely.
You wouldn't be able to send an invite. And we've seen that a lot, by the way, with the P15 and the P21 as well. P21 is the screen with the lightning on left and right. And it really allows you to have that focused call with the ideal lighting and without having to worry about anything else, right? Audio, video, all of that is in the screen. It's really cool. And it charges your phone as well.
So those were the focus rooms. Let's go and have a look at some of the personal room equipment like the P21 and the P15 now. Thank you.
Let's do that.
So Mark, we're here in front of I think what you referred to as a bring your own device setup. So this kind of sits below the focus rooms we've just seen, and kind of above the personal devices. So talk us around a little bit around what this setup is about, how it would be used.
Yeah, so often when we get customers that are challenged to deploy VC or conferencing into a large number of spaces, maybe cost is prohibitive factor.
Yeah.
Now, this is what Poly classes a premium USB solution.
Okay.
So you're able, this is an all-in-one solution. So it's got the camera, microphone and speakers as an all-in-one solution.
Yeah.
So it's a premium-based web camera, right?
Yeah.
So it's a premium-based camera. 4K camera optics in that device. So the whole idea is that now is that your laptop becomes the compute.
Yeah.
So your laptop is running Microsoft Teams or other ecosystems are available. But if I'm using Teams, I'd come into the meeting room.
Yeah.
Teams running on my laptop. I plug my USB cable into the laptop.
Yeah.
If I want to replicate my laptop onto the screen, I'm going to use the HDMI cable, and then that becomes my BYOD camera solution.
Yeah, so it's really quite nice. I quite like this setup as well, that it's kind of more standing desk, so it could be a morning huddle with your team, people joining you in remotely there. I think it's important to say that the Studio USB here is the same device for camera and audio that we saw in the small to medium meeting rooms as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. So this is again, it's a USB solution. It's Microsoft Teams certified, and we were using this as the compute for the MTR for Windows.
Yeah.
For the camera for the MTR for Windows solution. Which means that I'm using the 4K camera optics, I'm using the microphones and the speakers. So it's that high-end, that premium USB video bar.
Yeah.
As Vincent said earlier on, is that we're actually using it here in the briefing center as there's no walls here.
Yeah.
So I'm using the Poly camera technology and the audio technology to doing acoustic fence and noise block. So right now there's conversations happening all around us, but we're able to, using that audio technology, to cancel that background noise. Fantastic. So this is a touchdown point where users can come into their meeting room and have that conference, that Teams meeting, with the confidence that that surrounding sound is being attenuated or being cancelled out.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, let's go and have a look at the personal devices now with Vincent, and we'll see you with the headsets.
Brilliant, thanks Barry.
So Vincent, in the hybrid way of working, we've been looking at lots of meeting room technology, and we ended up with the focus rooms there, where we're getting down to maybe an individual working in an office environment. Here we've got kind of the personal side of that, the technologies that people may choose to deploy at home. Do you want to talk us through the range here?
Yeah, sure. So this is typically the P series, and they're all very well presented on one desk here. So we have the P15, the P5, P21. I'll come to those in a minute. But the P15 is pretty much, it's an amazing little device. It's a 4K camera with speakers and microphones all built in. It snaps on top of your screen. Very easy to take off as well. And it gives you that ultimate experience, not just for you, but also for the far end.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, it's important because the better the audio comes in, the less tiring it is to actually try to focus on what are they saying.
Yeah.
But for the far end, it's important as well. They need to be able to understand you wherever you are. I use a P15 at home. I have my desk chair, and there's a little sofa behind it. So if I do one-on-ones or something, I sometimes sit in the sofa, and the camera will automatically zoom in on me and everything. Now, very interesting as well. I'm sure you've seen people with little post-its across the camera on the laptop.
Yeah.
So we have, every of our cameras has this mechanical shutter.
Nice
So it's
positive
really,
click on there, yeah.
yeah, you turn and you see the mechanics close.
Yeah.
So it's not something digital that says, okay, your video is muted. No, it's really the mechanics that work. Now here's on a big curved screen, of course.
Yeah.
Right beside that is sort of the same screen, but with a P5. This is just a camera. So for audio here, you obviously need another solution. So if you work at home in an environment where you do not have the luxury of being able to work hands-free, this could be an ideal setup for you. It's also very cool to put in your go bag, because again, it enhances that camera experience. We've added a little thing at the back called the garage,
Okay.
which kind of houses the dongle for your headset, the USB dongle, because, well, I use a Surface from Microsoft. I only have one USB port, so I need that for the camera, and then the dongle goes inside that. Now, if you do have the luxury of a private environment at home, we also have an all-in-one, which is called the P21. Now, this is pretty much the camera, the speakers, microphones, and a screen, all built into one little solution, including lighting at the side, which you can basically dim the way you want. So that way you can ensure you look your best regardless of the lighting outside, regardless of the experience. And by the way, the foot will also power up your phone again. It's a Qi charger. So all of that again with a mechanical camera shutter. Now these are the personal devices, but we see a lot of enterprises using them as well. In those very little focus rooms, they put a P21. They ensure good lighting and good everything.
Yeah. It's really good to see that choice and selection. I mean, I was speaking to a friend of mine, he's a sales professional, and he said, look, Barry, I used to kind of get suited and booted to go and see customers. It was all about the kind of look and the appearance. It's exactly the same today, but it's about the camera. It's about, can they hear me? Can they see me? And we sorted him out a P15 because he wanted that kind of premium solution at home, that he could get up, he could talk to people, he could do that. What I also like about the things like the P5 is the poly bundles that you do. So you could get the P5 camera with the, I forget, the Sync 20, is it?
Yes, it is,
speakerphone,
indeed, yeah.
or the headset and things like that, which is perfect for an IT department to give to someone that's on the go, like you said.
Yeah, I think we got four separate bundles. One is with the hands-free Sync 20 little speakerphone. One is with a wired headset, one's with a DeX headset, and one's with a Bluetooth headset. So that pretty much covers 4 of the 5 headset types we have. We'll be discussing that later, I guess. But it typically, it comes back to those personas we were talking about earlier, right? So every person has its own needs, and you need to give a person the headset that he will use. The headset that he will need. You want to avoid your people go out and buy a headset because they prefer it, which might not be the brand you want, which might definitely not be managed by you. So that kind of opens up a whole can of worms. Having them use the right headset and giving them the choice to choose the headset that suits them best is really imperative.
Fantastic.
I think.
Yeah, no, so great selection there of personal devices. Thank you. So Mark, as we're coming towards the end of our tour here at the Poly Experience Centre, one really important part, going on from the personal kind of video devices, is looking at headsets and other audio devices. You're able to give us just a flavour of the kind of options that people have got when they're considering headsets for their users or maybe themselves?
Sure, absolutely, Barry. So here we've got a range of, Poly are well renowned for a range of headsets, whether you're an on-the-go worker, whether you're the mobile worker, or whether you're a contact centre worker. So at this side of the range, we've actually got a range of Bluetooth headsets. So we've got a range of our Voyager 6200, which is the around the neck headset. Okay, we've got the Voyager 4200 and the Voyager 4300. Again, these are really the home working type of headsets. These are Bluetooth range of headsets. As we move further down, I've got the Voyager 5200. This is an office or mobile working type headset. Particularly for the mobile worker, or your traveller, this has got the case. This is a case where you can slot the headset into the base, and that's your on your go worker.
It's got a charging battery in that case as well, hasn't it?
It's got a charging battery as well. Yeah. We do the version which is the office, which actually has the charging cradle.
Okay.
So if you're using it at your desk, pop that into the stand, and that'll actually charge. These are a range or a sample of the Bluetooth range of headsets.
And the different headsets, depending on kind of where they are in the range, will have different technologies built into them, like the ability to block noise and have active noise cancelling and things like that.
Absolutely. So the Voyager Focus 2, it's got acoustic fence, it's got noise block, and that will cancel out that background noise.
Useful for the kids running around in the background or whatever.
Absolutely, absolutely. As we move further up in the sample range that we have here, we have a conference phone.
Yep.
So the conference phone for your meeting room spaces or your different types of meeting room spaces. These are a Teams, so this is a native Teams conference phone. So it runs the Teams experience, and it's got the Teams UI. So maybe when you'll see that the interface has got a Teams UI experience.
Okay.
So you'll be able to see your meetings, you're able to do Teams calls directly from this device here. As we go further down, we have a range of speakerphones. So this is a wired, and it's a Bluetooth speakerphone. So this is the Sync 20. This will fit really neatly into your laptop or as your mobile, your portable solution. So microphone and speakers all in one. These devices are also Teams certified, but are great for your personal small audio conferencing solution.
Definitely. I love the fact you can charge your mobile phone from that one as well. The built-in battery is absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely, yes. On the Sync 40, I believe, has the charging. So we have the Sync 20, Sync 40, and the Sync 60. The Sync 40 and the Sync 60 are actually also Teams meeting room certified devices. So you can use that in your small Teams meeting room solution spaces. Actually, with the Sync 40 and 60, you can actually daisy chain those as well.
So for
a
bigger table
coverage,
or something.
you can improve that coverage on that. As we move further down the range, we have the Savvy range of headsets. So the Savvy range, this particular Savvy, so the Savvy 8200 is a decked headset. So think of environments where coverage is important, so banking solutions where coverage or density of coverage is important, also distance of coverage where it is important. The Savvy range is an important headset for you.
I think there's a great video on the Poly YouTube channel that shows someone in one of your US offices wearing one of those and seeing how far she can get down the corridor. And I think she was 70, 100 meters. I don't know what the supported range is, but what she was able to do, and the call clarity was still crystal clear while she was doing that. It was very impressive.
Absolutely, absolutely. So on this particular Savvy, so the Savvy Office station has the capability of switching between, do you want to use it paired with your desk phone? Also, you're going to use it as with your mobile as your mobile phone. So you can switch between the different calling applications that you're going to be using it with. Then we move on to this is the Encore range of headsets. This is a really lightweight headset designed for contact center.
Right.
So this is a wired USB, really lightweight contact center headset. So in those applications where customers want the application to be able to switch out headsets because you've got different agents on desk, it's a really neat solution. So this is just a sampling of ranges of Bluetooth, decked, and wired USB headsets that we have in at the briefing centre.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you ever so much. We're now going to go and see Zav and talk about the support and monitoring services. Thank you.
Brilliant.
So we're here with Zav, who is one of the sales leader for the services division at Poly. And one of the things that I've been thinking about and the experiences with customers is the technology is really important. Getting those experiences, getting the right technology to deliver those experiences is really important. But there's nothing more frustrating than walking into a meeting room and the kit isn't working. Certainly to the IT professional that spent months and months selecting this kit that is then kind of getting it in the ear from the exec. We've got to make sure that they're deployed in a way where they're supported and they're monitored. So there's two things I wondered if you could talk to us about. One is the Poly Plus support that is an option when you're purchasing the Poly equipment, and the other is remote monitoring. If you could just give us a little bit of detail about those.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Our customers, they're spending, frankly, a significant investment getting these devices in and working. Putting that there to try and get the benefits from the collaboration story and what's underpinning the business case, typically when they're going towards these cloud solutions such as Teams. And there's nothing worse than you've got this great room up and running, someone comes in, it's not working, right? So we've built these services to try and address how do we keep the rooms up and running, maximize that uptime, maximize that user experience, and then give IT the tools and capabilities to be able to resolve any problems that do arise as quickly as possible. So Poly Plus, it's our break fix service predominantly, although it does have some other features as well. Okay. So it will give you that 24/7 support direct into the Poly team so that we can provide that expertise to resolve any problems, whether it be on the software configuration level. They can be resolved relatively quickly. Sure. Or if it's a hardware problem, if we identify that, try and get some devices out to you. For example, in the UK, we can do that next business day if we identify it early enough. So you can quickly swap it out, get yourselves back up and running, and off we go again.
I think that's really important to be able to have that turnaround. The last thing you want is to buy a device that needs to be returned to manufacturer or something like that, and you have a meeting room that then doesn't function for a long period of time.
Absolutely. And this is advanced replacement we're talking about, so very much so. We identify the issue, we send another one out. Off we go from there. So that's critical. But there are some other great features actually bundled in with Poly Plus. So we also include some discounts for our professional services. So where we're able to complement your services, that we can offer that at a discount to Poly Plus subscribers. And there are what we also have known as premium features in Poly Lens. If you're a Poly Plus subscriber, you get access to those as well. So it's not just about break fix, it's about how we look after that wider experience as well.
Definitely. So the Poly Lens is the cloud-based access portal, administration portal that IT professionals can use to keep an eye on everything. But you've also got the remote monitoring solution that is available as an additional solution, I believe.
Very much so. So remote monitoring is how do we try and get ahead of the game? Because Poly Plus is about we've got a problem, how do we fix it? Remote monitoring is how do we find out if there's a problem, ideally before an end user's spotted it. That then lets IT and your providers be proactive. Go to the end user, say we spotted a problem with this room, we're fixing it. Depending on what the problem is, we'll try and make sure that we get that done either before your meeting or allow you to make alternative arrangements for the meeting so that it's not a case of you go in and you're fighting with the technology and your meeting's delayed by 10, 15 minutes or whatever it may be. So the trick with remote monitoring is we offer it on a per room basis, so we're not worried about, you've got one of these devices, one of those devices, keep ratcheting up the price. This is the price for the room and everything that's in there, and then we'll provide a dashboard back to whoever is the right resolver group so that they can look at it, see what's going on proactively, and if it's appropriate, we can integrate that with the trouble ticketing system as well, so that it can maximize the time given to the teams and minimize the workflow.
Fantastic, that's really ideal. So we've got that mix of proactive and reactive support to make sure that these fantastic technologies are working, best their capabilities, but if something does go wrong, it could be resolved quickly and easily.
Exactly, and for me that's how do you underpin the user experience, because we know it's working great on day one, but stuff can and does go wrong. It's not even always with the technology. The classic is the cleaners unplugged it or something like that. How do you know about that and just get ahead of that before the chief exec walks into the room and it's just not working? Because that's the last thing that any of us want, because we want to deliver that great experience every time.
Brilliant, that's great. Thank you ever so much for your time, Zav.
No problem.
So Patrick, we're coming to the end of our time here at the Experience Centre, but I understand you're kind of responsible for the Experience Centre. Do you want to tell us a little bit around your job and the Experience Centre?
Sure, So my name's Patrick, I'm the Experience and Demonstration Theatre Lead for Poly. So I ultimately run our demonstration centres across EMEA, we've got one here in the UK, we've got one in Hoofddorp, we've got one in Paris, and a few demonstration centres. But I'm also part of the team that actually develops the demonstrations that we have in our Experience Centres. So when we were looking at forward thinking, where do we take Poly in the next journey, and we came to the conclusion to come into the Gherkin, I was part of the team that's initially involved in designing things to think about that. And the crucial thing for us was we wanted something that would essence give something to the individuals about what their office space would be like, and then also taking them on a journey of how they can actually utilise some of the capabilities within Teams, and also from using it on a computer all the way up to those large meeting rooms in that aspect.
Okay, and this room here is probably one of my favourites as we've come to the end. Do you want to talk us through a little bit as to what experiences you're showing here?
Sure, no problems at all. So this particular room is our little demonstration hub. So the idea behind this is kind of showing in a small condensed world, people's real world. So example being is we can talk around different personas. We've been looking and doing a lot of studies in this area too, and different people. Not so much saying everyone is into one category, but you could have someone say as the office worker, such as at the end here, who may have one of our P5 cameras. They're using then one of our desktop phones, such as a CCX 500, a Savvy headset in that Teams world, so they could be on that Teams call. And then we could have our person up here, could be our executive that's travelling, using a laptop or one of our P15s, and being able to join into the call, even things like our sync, for example, and being able to utilise them while you're out and about. And then in between the middle of this is kind of like, well, a small huddle space.
Yeah.
And that's big differences, and that's where we've kind of seen that change now. As people are starting to return to the office, we can simulate, well, maybe a home working experience, maybe back in the office. How do we use that into a sort of a larger room experience with the system that we've got here, with the EX50 that we've got here?
Definitely, it's all about those different experiences you want to be giving to people. And next door to here is, from my perspective, it feels like the showcase room, large room, beautiful kind of layout and things like that. Do you want to talk us a little bit around that room?
Sure, yeah. So one of the crucial things, again, being in the Gherkin, we have a fantastic view out the window here. In that particular room there is called Tower Bridge. It is, you can see Tower Bridge. So what we've done with that room, we've designed it as a typical, say, meeting room. And part of the idea and the experiences behind this, how can we use that? I mean, we're in the Gherkin, it's full of glass. How the technology can help adapt in that environment. The room's also got our latest generation of camera, which is our E70, which have actually got plugged into that MTR for Windows. So we can actually take the customer on the journey from being able to, say, create that meeting invitation, say, from the computer down here, and then they simply go up and join into their call, and they can collaborate. Start that collaboration session, maybe start a whiteboarding session, all that elements, and bring people in, whether they're in the office, at home, or even virtually, or mobile, depending on where you may be.
Definitely. So it's been a really fantastic immersive experience, and I suppose the customers that are considering what they need to do and would like to see these technologies working with partners like Computer World, we can engage with you. You do virtual tours, you do physical tours and things like that.
Absolutely. So that's one of the crucial things here for partners and customers of Computer World, is we can do that. We have the capability of virtually demonstrations, which kind of gives us a very similar thing to maybe what you guys are experiencing today on camera. Yeah. We can delve in a little bit more granular detail. They are ideal for those quick, you need to see certain questions, but we're not silly. We have customers who want to come in, touch and feel everything. And that's why these experience centres exist. To be able for Computer World to bring in their customers, have a day, have an afternoon here with us. Okay, enjoy the view, let's be honest, but also experience those Microsoft technologies working in that Poly world in that aspect of it.
Definitely. So I suppose to any customers that have watched this, that have found it informative, I urge you to reach out to your account manager at Computer World. We can demonstrate the Microsoft side of these technologies to you direct. We can also work with our colleagues here at Poly to bring you down to the Poly Experience Centre and help design the right solutions for your meeting room. So I really hope you've enjoyed this session at Define Tomorrow, and if you're watching this afterwards, then be sure to check out the Computer World website. Thank you ever so much for your hospitality today. It's been really good, really informative.